It feels good to be back, everybody. Sorry it's been a minute. I've been quite busy with some real life stuff, having to take care of it. But finally, we are in here for my final draft rankings of this entire season. Then we can put all the draft rankings behind us. I know the NFL draft is about a month past at this point, but hey, I had all these rankings pretty much ready. Just had to record, add some clips in, and there you go. Got a video ready for you guys. But yeah, very excited. After this, gonna be all done officially as we get to my top 10 safeties. Starting off with Zakee Wheatley, the safety from Penn State. Gotta represent some Penn State in here. He ended up being drafted to the Panthers, and I do think he is a sneaky good pick. Should have maybe even thrown the eyes next to him, or I don't think he's a stud pick necessarily, but I do think he's sneaky good. 6'2", 231-inch arms, 31 and nearly 32-inch arms. 24 years old with 5 years of experience, all at Penn State as far as I know. Projected in rounds 5 to 6, I do believe he went in the 5th round. So, just getting into the nitty-gritty on Zakee Wheatley. A interestingly fun player with some relative high upside from his tenure at Penn State from all of the film that I watched. A bit of a slower guy, but he does attack the run pretty well. He does have good intermediate zone coverage, and he's pretty good at diagnosing plays. In fact, it's probably one of the best things that he does. Looking at that relative to his size, his age, where you get a decent amount of experience, and the fact that he played for a Big Ten team in Penn State, you get a guy who we throw into the top 10 safeties in a not too crazy safety class, but at the same time, he makes the top 10 easily. And I did sneak him in here at this number 10 pick because I think he's got some relatively high upside. I think you kind of compare him to the Panthers even picking up a player like Lathan Ransom. I believe they picked him up last year. Same type of deal, a little bit of an older player, played at Ohio State. I believe he played somewhere else, maybe Virginia. But you're just getting a player that you know is going to be somewhat decent. He's got the upside there. He's played at a notable school. And, yeah, I somewhat like Zakee Wheatley. Obviously, as a Penn State fan, I like him. But at the same time, as we look into some of his traits, C plus for the speed, so he's a little bit slower. C excel, C change of direction, C plus agility, and B minus strength. So he's not the biggest athlete that you see in the world, but that's all right relative to his size, and his coverage ability and run defense is better. So you're not really expecting this guy to play downfield and, kill you when it comes to speed, chasing down, like, speedy receivers or tight ends over the top or, a crazy fast running back. But if he's playing down in the deep coverage or the intermediate zone, he is able to take on players pretty well and diagnose plays to the point where, he doesn't really need the speed to be able to get after them. He's already in the right place at the right time. That is usually what Zakee Wheatley does. I give him a bit of a lower impact grade, so he's got a bit of a low floor. The impact grade is the floor. The potential grade, I give him an 80 with a pro comp of Jordan Whitehead, the former Bucs safety. I don't believe he still played with them. I believe he went to the Jets as well. A solid overall player who is kind of somewhat intermediate tier for a player like Zakee Wheatley to end up becoming. Jordan Whitehead more of like a 73, 74 overall type of total player, and I think Zakee Wheatley does have higher potential than him, but has a lot of similar traits to him, plays pretty similarly, so give him the B minus for the deep zone. That could be worked on a bit. B for the intermediate is fine. C minus for the man. That's not the biggest deal in the world. He is a safety after all. B minus for the route squeeze, and then C plus for the ball production. As we look over to the run defense, B for the run defense. I think the run defense is that combined with the coverage ability is some of the better things that he does, especially with the diagnosis of plays down there with the B plus, B minus for the pursuit, B minus for the tackling. Very important for a safety to be able to tackle well. If not, and you're getting shed right off of players, you're probably going to be a career backup. But the fact that he has above average traits is really what led me to throw him in this number 10 slot. So, looking at that overall, give him the 6.35 grade. That's a bit of a lower tier grade for me, but at the same time, we've seen some players that have made my, number 10 who got like high 5.0 grades or very low 6.0 grades. So, the fact that Zakee Wheatley makes it in here with a 6.35, he is a interestingly fun player who I definitely see why the Panthers took a chance on him. They like players of his caliber, you know, players similar to a Nick Cross that plays for the Colts or Lathan Ransom, as I talked about before. These kind of like relatively decently sized safeties who played at a big school and have high end traits. That's kind of what I compare Ski Wheatley to. But yeah, he gets my number 10 ranking. Love him. Went to Penn State. An absolute beast. As we look at my number 9. And like I said before, the safety class I'm not really too high on. There's some interesting players, such as we get to Genesis Smith here, who played for Arizona. I even thought about putting his teammate on here, but I decided no. I was not going to throw him on here. And I believe that was, what was it, Davison Igbinosun? No. He played for Ohio State. Whoever Genesis Smith's teammate was a cornerback as well. Cornerback over safety, and he was a pretty fun player. Got drafted as a safety, but he just did not make my top 10 rankings. I just did not think he was able to fit in there. But when we look at a player like Genesis Smith, it takes a lot of steps up from talking about Ski Wheatley, even with the size, 6'2", 202, a little bit bigger, 32-inch arm, so like it's relatively like the same player comp for the height weight arm. But the thing that you look at for a player like him, 21 years old with 3 years of experience, much younger, very important to look at that. Give him a 6.50 overall grade. As we see the draft value still around rounds 5 to 6. It's a plus 15.15 overall grade bump from looking at a player like Ski Wheatley, if I could speak. Then, as we talk about his overall impact grade, we're looking at 73 overall, so we're looking at a decently high floor as well for a player like Genesis Smith. And then the 84 overall potential grade is nothing crazy, but on a similar level to how I graded out Kalen Bullock, who we throw on a pro comp for Genesis Smith, being Kalen Bullock. Yeah, I do think both players are interesting. It's both kind of those guys that play more on the western side who are decently sized and have good overall traits and just look somewhat exciting. I don't really think they both fit into the same player comp. But as a player himself, Genesis Smith plays very similarly to Kalen Bullock. But anyways, I will stop the yap on that because I'm like stumbling over my words today. Athletic tools, B+ for the speed. A decently fast player. B for the excel. B- for the change of direction. B for the agility. And C- strength. So you see, when you look at a player like Genesis Smith, you're looking at a decent athlete overall, especially with the speed, a whole lot faster than Ski Wheatley. Coverage ability, A- for the deep zone, B+ for the intermediate zone, B- for the man coverage, B for the route squeeze, and B+ ball protection. That is very nice overall coverage ability, and it is what led me to throwing him out in my number 9 spot, because before this, I was like, I didn't even really know who Genesis Smith was, and then taking a look at him, I was like, alright, coverage ability really nice, and I even had him as my 10th, like, possibly 11th ranked safety, and then I was like, no, he's going up the list, and I thought about even moving him up further, but I did think some of the guys ahead of him were a little bit better. So, run defense is probably the biggest thing that he struggles in. C- for the run defense, D+ for the block take on, C for the pursuit, B for diagnostics, and then D+ for the tackling. Tackling really has to improve if he wants to be a starting caliber safety in the NFL, and I know that was a similar problem as well for Kalen Bullock. Had all the traits, but was probably somewhat struggling with the run defense / the tackling. So that is Genesis Smith. Decently high upside, decently high floor. Very nice player, and I forget who ended up picking him in the draft, but whoever did end up getting him got a very nice relative player. Solid, and like I said, got to kind of clean up some of the stuff over on the run defense side. But outside of that, the coverage ability and the athletic tools and just the overall measurables that Genesis Smith provides are pretty nice. You know, you like that. And then you like the age as well. 21 years old with 3 years of experience, all at Arizona as far as I know. I don't think he transferred from anywhere else. Very solid player, like Genesis Smith. As we get to Kamari Ramsey at a USC, 6'2", 202, 31-inch arms, nearly 32. This guy was a guy I had as a fringe safety number 6, safety number 5, and he moved massively down my list as I checked him out more. I thought he was going to be similar to a player like a Kamari Lassiter or a player like a Kalen Bullock, these guys that the Houston Texans absolutely love, and I'm sure they ended up picking him in the draft. I'm not 100% sure, but they love players like this. They love their USC guys. They love their like slightly undersized Georgia USC safety corner prospects. I don't know why. It's just what they tend to pick. But with the 6'2", 202, nearly 32-inch arms, 21 years old, 4 years of experience. And then, yeah, played at UCLA. Rounds 4 to 5. I do believe he went around the 4th round with a pro comp of Quentin Lake, who used to play for the LA Rams. I don't think so anymore. I don't project him on a similar career path to a Quentin Lake, but I do project their traits to be pretty similar as players. As we take a look down at his athletic tools after mentioning that. B for the speed, B plus excel, B minus change of direction, B agility, C plus strength, B deep zone, B plus intermediate zone, B minus man coverage, B plus for the route squeeze, C plus for bulk production. So you're looking at the overall athletic traits, like, all right, he's a solid athlete, and then you're like, all right, his coverage ability. I don't really think that Kamari Ramsey does anything that special, but I did think that I had to rank him around the 8th spot because he does everything relatively well. Not a player with insane upside, but a player that you could take in a later round and is going to likely develop pretty well with the right coaching staff around him to be that possible 84 overall type of player, that more high-end player. And I was a little bit higher on him going in, like I said, but just looking at this altogether, a fine athlete, fine in coverage, fine with the run defense. He is also a very good diagnosis. He's very good at diagnosing the play, just as a player like Shaquille Wheatley is. But at the same time, you can only take so much from that because the run defense and the tackling is very important, and the pursuit. So B minus for the pursuit, C for the block take on, C plus for the run defense, B plus for the diagnostics, and C for the tackling down there if you want to hear all the run defense stuff. But yeah, like I said, I'm still a big fan of Kamari Ramsey. I'd like to see what he ends up doing for the team that drafted him. But at the same time, a player that you kind of know what his floor is, you know what his ceiling is, and you don't really expect too much from him, except he did transfer from UCLA, and he looked a whole lot better in his time playing for USC. It was something that I noticed, and hopefully he can only continue to get better, because you pick a player like him, you could be expecting him to start at the lowest of lows, but work his way up to a decent level of a high. And yeah, that is all I have to say about Kamari Ramsey. Very fun. If you haven't seen some of the tape, he definitely has some of the best highlight plays, which I think is why I was so interested originally. I was like, oh, I've heard of Kamari Ramsey's name plenty of times. Got to be a top 5 safety in this class. He does have definitely some down moments in there that I noticed on film. As we talk about one of my sleepers of this draft, I didn't even know, but people were talking about him a little bit after, and they weren't too high on Michael Taft. He ends up going to the Miami Dolphins in one of the later rounds. I want to say the 5th or the 6th round. And he's a very fun prospect, actually. I had him all the way up here, moved him up to my 7th spot. I believe I had him around 9 originally. He gets a 0.10 bump. Yeah, 0.10 bump. Definitely had Kamari Ramsey above him originally, because, you look at the size, you look at the age, you're like, all right, a little bit undersized, 5'11", 190. 29-inch arms, 23 years old with 4 years of experience. All right, you're like, everybody wants the young thing coming in, and they want a safety who's decently sized as well. But then you start looking at some of the stuff, and coverage ability and run defense is very important. He's not an overall sound athlete. Like, look at the C plus speed, B minus excel, and then you look at the height, weight, arm profile. You're like, yeah, he's not the most sound athlete in the world, or with athleticism in general, but taking a look at his coverage ability and his run defense, you're like, all right, he's got something going on there. B for the deep zone, A minus for the intermediate zone, B minus for the man, B for the route, and A minus for the ball production. That is very nice overall. You combine that with the run defense, where he gets a B plus, C for the block take on, B plus pursuit, B minus tackling, and A diagnostics. Some of the best diagnostics we've seen out of any player so far. B plus run defense, very nice. Intermediate zone, some of the best in the class. And I give him the pro comp of Jordan Fuller. I feel like that is pretty similar. A lot of these safeties continue to remind me of Rams former corners or safeties. I don't know why, but Michael Taft continuing to fall in that slot. He's got a fine impact grade floor, 70 overall, nothing crazy, with an 83 overall potential grade, being able to get to that higher level. And I do think he starts in this rookie season for the Miami Dolphins, who have an absolutely horrendous secondary. They have Chris Johnson out there starting. Juju Brents is in there. Taff, in addition to another safety, are likely going to be thrown out into the fire, and we'll see how he ends up doing. I don't think that's the best way to get this potential out of him. I think you'll more see a 75, 76 overall player out there, but hey, could end up turning out pretty nicely, and I'm definitely a bigger fan of him than when I went into the draft. Very fun player. That Texas defense is something else. Can't wait to get into some Colin Simmons next year. That is going to be so fun to talk with you guys about. Very fun edge player, and it seems they are able to kind of build up some of their defensive players in addition to their offensive players. So you see he comes from a school like Texas, you're like, all right, that's also something notable to kind of add to his profile. But overall, like I said, not the best athlete, and you kind of don't want to look at the age too much. I mean, 23 is fine, or the height, weight, arm profile, but then take a look at the coverage ability combined with the run defense, and he has plenty of traits that make him a starting caliber safety in the NFL. Very excited to see how he ends up doing in that Miami Dolphins team that is rebuilding currently. Very fun player as we get to Bud Clark. I do believe he went to the Buffalo Bills, or am I thinking about the linebacker that they took out of TCU? I do think I'm thinking about the linebacker. But Bud Clark, very, very fun safety prospect to look at. Wasn't too high on him going into it. He turned out to be my number 6 safety. Yeah, very fun player with Javon Holland type traits. I said he is Javon Holland light for the pro comp. Rounds 3 to 4, I do believe he went in the 3rd round. And then the height, weight, arm profile, fine. Prototypical for a safety, 6'1", 188, 31.5-inch arms, nearly 32. 24 years old with 5 years of experience. That's the only thing you kind of look at in his profile outside of the blocking and the tackling. You're just like, I don't really know about that. A little bit older. But hey, take a chance on a guy who has great athleticism, great coverage ability, and a fine run defense. And then just prototypical safety type of prospect. A- for the speed. B+ for the acceleration. Very nice and fast. I'm one of the faster safeties in the class. B- for the change of direction. B for the agility. C- strength. A- for the deep zone, B+ for the intermediate zone, B- for the man coverage, one of the worser stats, but still B-. Are you kidding me? Look at that coverage ability overall, and you say, damn, this dude can be a safety / corner type of guy for you. If he were to bulk up in size a little bit, could definitely play corner, but I see him more of as a Javon Holland type, definitely, with the route squeeze, the ball production. Very, very sound in coverage ability, and then a very nice athlete, like I said before. Run defense is the thing that he struggles with the most. C+ for the run defense. Block take on, and that is notably where I take his score down a good bit due to the tackling, due to the run defense. Just got to take that down. Nice diagnostics, fine pursuit. D+ for the block take on. That's not something I take into account too much. But overall, a player with some sound ability, a very nice floor. I give him the 74 overall floor. You can tell he's going to come in and be a starting caliber guy. I give him a very high potential grade. Will he be able to reach that? I don't know. Will he be able to be a player like Javon Holland? I don't know. That would take a lot. And also, I do think Javon Holland has played some previously great seasons. I'm talking about that one that played for Miami. He's been solid while he's been playing up in New York, but we'll have to see how Bud Clark ends up turning out. But I do like him overall, and a player that I knew about prior to the draft, but taking a look into some of his stuff, I was like, damn, all right, good athlete. Very, very nice coverage ability, which bumped him up a whole lot. And then just got to kind of work on those things for the tackling and the run defense. And then, 24 years old, 5 years of experience. Experience is good to see. And 6'1", 188, not bad for the size profile as well. As we get to one of my guys of the draft, I did not think he was going to be this good. But any of these South Carolina DBs coming out are fucking monsters. I will say it. They are monsters. Jalen Kilgore, you talk about him. And Nick Emanwori last year, the safety out of South Carolina. 6'1", 210. Give him the nod for the 210 and the nearly 33-inch arm, so I give him that kind of stud tier for myself. 21 years old, 3 years of experience, so he is a young guy. I believe he went in the 3rd, maybe the 4th round. He might have even gone a little bit later, but I believe the Buffalo Bills picked him up. I wanted the Eagles to get him so badly. Profiles out to a similar pro comp of a Jeremy Chin type of prospect. Give him a bit of a lower impact grade, kind of on the level of a Kamari Ramsey, but a super high potential grade, 88. I think he could be an even better player than a Jeremy Chin, no doubt about it. A- for the speed, A- excel, C+ change direction, B for the agility, A- strength, so a very nice athlete overall there. Coverage ability, very sound, B for the deep zone, B+ for the intermediate zone. Noticed a lot of nice intermediate zone coverage on his tape. B for the man coverage. That's fine for a safety. B plus for the route screeze. And for the ball production, give him a B. Run defense. That is some of the best stuff that he does. A minus for the run defense. As I said before, I take a big look at that run defense grade for these safeties. B plus for the block take on, A minus pursuit, A minus diagnostics, and B for the tackling. I don't think you can get a player that is as sound as a Jalen Kilgore. Very, very fun. Very young prospect. He's got perfectly good size profile. And yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I didn't think I was going to be such a big fan, but give him the 7.20 overall grade. That's getting into some of the, some of my like top 50, top 40 prospects in the draft. Yes, the 7.20 grade. If you go through all my players and grade it out, I think he's reaching like the low 40s, maybe mid 40s of the top players that I have ranked in this class. So very, very fun player in Jalen Kilgore. Like him a lot. Another player I did not expect to like as much as I did, and then I was like, all right, killing it on the run defense, very sound in the coverage, and then a very nice athlete overall. So you're just getting a above average, more than that, like nearly elite level run defender with fine tackling ability, great speed. Like, this guy's a starter in the NFL, and I can't wait to see what he ends up doing for the Bills. I do believe they ended up drafting him. But yeah, that is our safety number 5. Jalen Kilgore made it up the list. But then I took a look at A.J. Halsey, and they were very close. As you can see, I got the 7.20 grade. Didn't mean to spoil my number 3. You guys probably already know who it is. But I got the 7.20 overall grade for Jalen Kilgore, and then we got the 7.30 overall grade for A.J. Halsey. And I was like, honestly, I was like, all right, Kilgore's going to go above Halsey. And then I looked at Halsey stuff. I'm like, all right, this is a little bit more sound. He's a little bit younger as well, I do believe. Oh, wait, no, Kilgore's 21. Never mind. So, but A.J. Halsey is close in age and has a little bit more experience playing at multiple schools. He's been at Houston, New Mexico University as well. So, just take a look at him. And he is kind of like just slightly a little bit above Jalen Kilgore, especially for some of the things that I take into account. A little bit more like the diagnostic end. If you're looking for a speedier or athletic safety that has that higher upside, then you got to take Jalen Kilgore all day. But if you're looking for the better, more kind of slightly more well-rounded prospect, I'm taking A.J. Halsey out of LSU. 6 foot 215, 30-inch arms, nearly 31-inch. 22 years old with 4 years of experience. As I said before, played at Houston and New Mexico University, rounds 3 to 4. I believe he went in round 3. Did the Colts take him? I think they took somebody else. But would fit on a team like the Colts. Totally blanking on where he ended up going, but still. Xavier Watts light. So the guy that they ended up drafting last year out of Notre Dame, the Atlanta Falcons drafted Xavier Watts. And I do think some of their tendencies were somewhat familiar. I don't think they'll have similar career paths, but I definitely think some of the tendencies were the same. Looking at both of their films, looking especially at Xavier Watts' college film, Watts has sky-high upside. I do think he's a higher upside prospect than a player like Halsey, but still kind of on the same level there. B for the speed, B plus excel, C plus for the change of direction, B minus agility, and A minus for the strength. So a fine athlete, but when you're looking at a player like this, you're not entirely looking at the athletic traits. That is not something that appeals as much as Jalen Kilgore is an athlete. The coverage ability and the run defense are absolutely nuts. Combine these together, and it's some of the best in the class. It's borrowing on top 2 level. Just looking at overall coverage ability and run defense, as I said. B plus for the deep zone, A minus for the intermediate zone, C plus man coverage, B plus route squeeze, A minus ball production. Very, very nice, especially for the intermediate zone and the ball production. Deep zone can be pretty hard for safeties to actually manage sometimes. He gets the B plus there. C plus the man coverage I don't take into account too much. A minus on the run defense side of the ball, B plus for the block take on, B plus for the pursuit, A for the diagnostics, and B for the tackling. And you guys might say, how are you ending up ranking these safeties this guy? This is your safety number 4. You have him 7.30. I do grade each of the players a little bit differently. So the fact that he's up here with the 7.30 doesn't mean he's like the most sound, amazing prospect in the world or like getting to that like elite territory. It just means that he's one of my higher I've ranked him a little bit higher than some of the other safeties with the grading specifically. That doesn't mean when you're going back and comparing him to some of my other player grades, oh, he's better than this guy. Oh, this guy's on par with, you would draft Fernando Mendoza on par with A.J. Halsey because Mendoza's a 7.50 and Kenyon Sadiq's a 7.50. No, they grade out differently due to the different grades. Halsey gets up here as a 7.30. I'm not picking like a safety. I'm not picking a 7.50 overall stud tight end, or I'm not picking a 7.30 overall graded like mid-tier safety over a 7.50 overall stud tight end who ranks as the top player and is, somebody who ran the fastest 40 time. That is not how my grades apply. But at the same time, when you're looking at the 7.30 overall grade for him as a safety, you're like, all right, this is a guy I would pick as like, if I'm looking for a safety and all the other guys are off the board, all right, I give him a 7.30 overall grade because I'm going to end up picking him for his ability as a safety. I'm not talking about him in comparison to other players. Did give some of these guys a little bit higher rankings in this. Definitely have to go through and double check and make sure everything's all right. I take into account the height, weight, arm. I take into account the age, all sorts of things like that. So that is something important for me. Anyways, we looked at Halsey, beast, safety number 4. Very nice, probably one of the higher floors in this class, and a fine potential grade as we look to our number 3, who is probably one of my favorite safeties of this entire class. 0.5 higher because he's kind of a do-it-all type of safety, but he's got way higher upside than a player like A.J. Halsey and some of the best size profile in this entire safety class. 6'3", 201, 32-inch arms. Very, very nice. 22 years old with 4 years of experience, and that is Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo. The Cleveland Browns got themselves a steal around the second round, and that is where I had him projected. Rounds 2 to 3, a beast. Really wish that the Philadelphia Eagles could have grabbed up on him. He is awesome. Give him the low-end comp of a Jaquan Brisker and the high-end comp of a Cam Chancellor Light. Yes, this is a dude I am very high on. Wanted to give him a bit of a higher grade. Went through some of the things. I was like, all right, there's some things that he can improve upon. I give him a fine floor of a 73 overall, but then the 90 overall potential grade is, that kind of ceiling, that high-end level that he can get to. So B+ for the speed, B+ for the excel, B- for the change of direction, B agility, and A- strength. I do like to say he is an above-average athlete, a very talented player. Then you take a look at the coverage ability. B- for the deep zone is fine. B+ for the intermediate zone. B for the man. A- for the route squeeze. And B+ for the ball production. A solid overall player who you take into account. I don't know, that size profile always matters so much to me. The 6'3", 201, 32-inch arms. That is always very important to me. So A- for the run defense. B+ for the block take on. B for the pursuit, B- diagnostics, and B- tackling. Very nice overall. Tackling could be worked on a little bit, but the run defense is something very key to note. A player that is just very well-rounded, really like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and he has all the traits in the world, if you watch some of the film on him, to be at the level of his former teammate Quinyon Mitchell, except for the safety position. Same thing, I do take into account some of the stuff like that. Toledo has been pretty good in the past few years at producing some solid, decent DBs, whether that's in the later rounds or whether that's Quinyon Mitchell, who went in the first round. Nick Worry and Jalen Kilgore, another example of that. That's something I take into account, just kind of comparing the players to the schools and to players that formerly came out of the schools. And yes, I am very high on a player like McNeil Warren, young, great size, solid to great overall profile as you total all of those grades out. And yeah, 73 overall, which gives him a fine floor, and then the 90 overall potential grade gives him a very nice ceiling. I'm not saying this dude's Cam Chancellor. I'm not saying he's the next coming of Cam Chancellor. I'm just saying probably end up seeing his prospect grade being somewhere in the middle of a Jaquan Brisker and a Cam Chancellor light level of high. But that is all the time. Excited to see. Hopefully the Cleveland Browns can get some stuff out of him, because this is a very fun athlete. This is a very fun safety who you can do a whole lot with. So I'm very excited to see how he fits into that defense with Mason Graham, Myles Garrett, and the rest of the squad they got there. Denzel Ward should be very fun to note as we get to my next safety. Only a 0.5 bit higher, but Dylan Thieneman does a whole lot of things better that I do like in comparison to McNeil Warren. Those top 3 safeties are all awesome. I was about to say they're interchangeable, but the number 1 is literally my best prospect in the entire class. When you compare, the safety to edge grade, would you rather have the best safety in the class or the best edge in the class? Obviously, you're going to go with edge. Edge is going to make a bigger difference, but either way, both are fun to talk about. 6'2", 201, 31-inch arms, 21 years old, 3 years of experience. You got to talk about that. Very young guy, rounds 1 to 2. He went in round 1 to the Chicago Bears. And I do think that was a better fit than I originally thought on draft day. I think my immediate reaction to it was like, it's fine. Solid fit. Did want the Eagles to pick him up. I wanted them to pick up literally any safety in this class. And then our division rival got my safety 1, and I was like, damn. I mean, I knew we weren't going to get him, but still, kind of hurts. Give him the pro comp of Jesse Bates. This is like Vanilla Vic at Jesse Bates. He's a beast. Let's take a look. An athlete at his core. A for the speed, B plus excel, B change direction, B plus agility, B minus strength. So very, very high-end, nice athlete overall. Coverage ability, he gets an A minus for the intermediate zone, B for the man coverage, A minus route squeeze, and A minus ball production. Very, very sound player overall. Taking a look at both those grades, and then you turn over to the run defense. B plus for the run defense, C plus block take on, A minus for the pursuit, A minus diagnostics, and then a B plus for the tackling side. Very, very sound player. Really like Dylan Thieneman a whole lot. Honestly, a lot better than I did even, say, like a couple months back when we were looking at players overall. After the combine, I feel like his grades started going up, and people continued to be high on him until he ended up making it his way into the first round talks and was picked up by the Bears. So, a very fun player overall. As I see all these, he's got prototypical size. He's young at 21. Athletic tools are all there. The strength can be worked on, but he is a little bit smaller. So, the coverage ability, very nice. You got to talk about the run defense. B plus for that. B plus for the tackling. So, very sound on that. And then the coverage ability is important as well. Gets the A. For the deep zone grade, very, very important for safeties to have a great deep zone grade. And he has it. Absolute beast. Really like Dylan Thieneman. Thought about throwing him a little stud icon next to him, but I feel like everybody already kind of knows that he is a stud, that he is a beast, and that's why he went where he went in the draft. Shall we get a drum roll for maybe my best prospect in this entire draft? Tied right up there with Ruben Bain. Also, how did he fall to the Buccaneers? I don't know. David Bailey is a solid player, but Ruben Bain is a beast. We got this next player, Bain, Jeremiah Love, Kenyon Sadiq, way down as like Mansour Delane. Got to talk about our top guys too, Orville Reese and Sonny Styles. Sonny was our best linebacker. Orville was our second to best linebacker and second to best edge. Well, this guy gets a 7.80 grade, a near perfect is an 8.0. I've never graded a single player an 8.0. I've never even graded a single player above a 7.8. And for the draft, like, the defense was key to this draft. It was insane. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, all very fun. Tight ends, but the defense was so damn fun in this draft. The edge, the safeties, the linebackers, D tackles were even really fun to look at, especially Pete Woods. But Caleb Downs, fucking insane. Just go around, look at his grades. 6 foot, 205, 30-inch arms, fine size, 21 years old with 3 years of experience, transferred from Alabama, the start of 2024 season. Top 5 overall in draft value. He was picked somewhere closer to the 10 range by the Dallas Cowboys, who got themselves the best safety and possibly the best prospect of this entire draft. Brian Branch is his low-end comp. Budda Baker is his high-end comp, and I think he has the potential to easily be better than a player like Budda Baker. No doubt about it. 7.80 grade. Insane to give him that. And obviously, as I said before, we have our grades, but it's dependent on, are you picking a Caleb Downs? Like, it depends what you need. Obviously, the Cowboys wanted safety over edge, but are you picking a Downs over a Bain? Are you picking a Downs over a David Bailey? It depends, but at the same time, you can't really compare that as much, because Caleb Downs was one of the best safety prospects that we've seen in years, and he deserved to go where he went. He deserved to go even earlier with his Ohio State teammates, Orville Reese, Sonny Styles, and Cardinal Tate, who all went within like the top 10 range, or top 8, top 7 range. But anyways, looking at some of his stuff, as I said before, he's young. He's got the size profile that you look for. A for the speed, A plus acceleration, A minus change of direction, A for the agility, B plus for the strength, so you're getting a phenomenal athlete there, a speedy athlete, one that can excel very fast, one that has solid strength for his size, probably above average strength for his size. A for the agility, A minus change of direction, that's very important as well. A for the deep zone, A plus intermediate zone, getting that in there as well. A minus for the man coverage, that's some of the best coverage grades of this entire draft. A plus for the route squeeze, best route squeeze grade, best intermediate zone grade, I think the best deep zone grade. Very nice man coverage, A minus. Ball production, A minus. Run defense, A plus. That's the best of the class. B for the block take on. One of the worst things he does, and he still gets a B. An A plus for the pursuit, A plus diagnostics, A plus tackling. Thought about bumping the grades down. Said no way. This dude is a beast. Generational type player. Would be getting a little bit closer to an 8.0 type of grade. So I won't say that. If he was like a 7.90, 95 range, I could see it. 7.80, the highest that I've ever graded a prospect, though, is Caleb Downs, and I have nothing but praise to say for him. He is a monster. Go and watch his tape, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be using him to kill us in the NFC East for the next few seasons, at least until Downs inevitably realizes that the Cowboys are not the place to be and decides to come to the Philadelphia Eagles, you know? But anyways, I will stop hating. They got an phenomenal prospect in him, and he is going to be making waves for a long time, I do believe. 80 overall impact grades are already a really nice floor with a 99 overall potential grade. I have not given that to anybody else in the class, but 99 is where I do see him. I'm talking about prime Budda Baker here that we could see at a Caleb Downs game. Very excited for the next few seasons with him. But yeah, guys, that is going to be about all for this, and I can't believe we did it. I'm so excited right now. We did it. Wow, we really went through every single position of the NFL draft. I graded them all out. We did some film analysis. We checked out all these guys. I mean, let's just like look for a minute. Like, look, this is everything that has gone into this series. And I know not a lot of people have watched it, but if you have been interested and watched it, like, look at all these different grades that we've done. We did the inside defensive line grades. They were so fun to do. The corners. Beast right there, Chris Johnson. Underrated, went to the Dolphins. Cassius Howell went to the Bengals. R. Mason Thomas to the Chiefs. Parker, I can name where most of these guys went. So fun. Kenyon Sadiq, beast. Eli Stowers, beast. Now Philadelphia Eagle. God, that tight end class was not fun to do. Our O-line guys in there. Jeremiah Love. The running back class was somewhat underrated to me. Going all the way back to the quarterbacks. Sawyer Robertson in there. Did he go undrafted? I think so. I think going all the way back to the wide receivers, definitely should have thrown Casey Conception up there a little bit, but this was from a little bit ago. But yeah, guys, that is it. Thank you guys all for watching my 2026 NFL Draft Prospects grade as the music comes to an end, as the series comes to a crescendo. Thank you guys. I really appreciate any of you that have checked out this series, whether you just stumbled upon it on your For You page or recommended page, whatever it is called. Yeah, this has been a series that I've done entirely, and one of the first series that I've entirely completed outside of a UCLA Dynasty college football series. So thank you guys, and that is going to be all from me. I will see you in the coming days for a way too early mock draft for the 2027 NFL Draft. Already getting into things, but also some other things coming up on the channel. We got the NBA Finals coming up. Been very fun to watch that. Baseball season is on, and we still got some videos to do for some, Dynasty, some Delaware Dynasty, Jets franchise. So stay tuned for all of that stuff, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thank you again for watching this one. Feel free to like, subscribe below, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.